Hey everyone, these are the astrological highlights for the first half of August. So I will have timestamps down below, that way you can just come back and revisit this video as you progress through the first half of August to make it really easy. So let's get into the very first day, which is very packed. So we start out with a bang, August 1st. There's a lot going on. Amongst them, the full moon in Aquarius. Oh, by the way, this is for tropical astrology. I haven't gotten around to doing sidereal astrology videos. It's just too much time. So anyway, we have that amongst them, but I actually am going to start with this trine that we have between Mars and Jupiter. So we have a nice trine that's happening here. And before we get to the full moon, I just want to kind of get into this and talk about this first. So this energy is really good for using it to get things done, get things moving. It's, it's kind of like that vibe of, there's nothing we can't do together. These two working together are like powerhouses. I don't want to obscure Mars. So these two are like powerhouses, really, when they're working together. With Jupiter is very much like the larger than life vision and energy and optimism and also opportunities. Let's not forget that opportunities come with Jupiter when it's doing well. And so you can really have that with Mars's drive and will and explosive spark of energy. You can really utilize this to drive things forward, to drive towards making some progress with the vision that you're creating, with what it is that you're creating in any area of your life, right? So these two working together, I really love. And I think it's really useful for, in a couple of different ways. So you bring that together with Venus retrograde and, because of Venus being about creativity and finances, besides, we get so focused on the relationship aspect and the harmonious aspect of what Venus brings to the table, we forget, like, this is also about our creativity. It's also about our finances, right? So this could actually work together with this particular transit to be working on these creative or financial aspects, maybe reworking, revisioning, revising, because Venus is in retrograde, these kinds of projects in your life. Now you bring that together with the fact that, we talked about this last month in the second half of July video, Mars being in Virgo like this, that kind of energy is really great for being able to chunk things down into specific manageable steps, right? Because Jupiter is really fantastic at that big vision, like the huge expansive vision, the overall bird's eye view kind of vision. And when we put that drive and that will to drive forward and get things moving, and we put that into something like Virgo, which is very detail oriented, this is kind of one of the ways that we can work with that energy. So you might feel this really big, expansive, like energizing kind of energy to like really get things done that day. And so I would say make sure that you focus it from the macro, bring it down to the micro, so that it's actually something that's manageable that you can take that forward with. So that's one part of this. That all said, I want to talk about something else here that it's like, we can get overly focused, I think, sometimes with astrology on career and purpose and drive and like, some of the more serious aspects of our life. And I think we forget sometimes about the really fun stuff. Let's just talk for a moment about how Mars and Jupiter have some very, very fun energy together. And I mean fun with a beautiful smirk, right? Like the Mars is libidinous. Mars is passion and libido. And then you bring that together with Jupiter's, fun-loving, debaucherous kind of energy, and not debauchery in a way that's detrimental. I mean like that just fun-loving kind of Dionysus picture of like energy together, right? You bring these two together and that is a good time. So if you have someone that, you can get sexy with, I'm just going to encourage you to go get naked and have a good time with this person. So, have a damn good time, because I think that this could be a ripe situation for some passionate, fun, sexy time goodness. So, I want to throw that out there because if that's a part of your reality, great, take advantage of this. Have a good time, flow with the energy, and just to say, this is actually going to be starting on the 31st, right? We'll have this energy, I believe it's like more towards the evening time. So, hey, it's building up, it's starting up in the evening, and it comes exact on August 1st. So you could kind of parlay the evening before into this day. Why not? It's a Tuesday, spice up your Tuesday. So I want to mention that. So that said, also hold that thought. So we're going to talk about some other stuff that is occurring here with the full moon that is happening. And actually, I just want to make a little bit of space here so we can take a look at our Mercury. So with the full moon, we also have Mercury opposing Saturn. So we've got that full moon happening here in Aquarius, and then we also have Mercury, which is going to be in opposition with Saturn right here, right? So I would not recommend today for the kinds of conversations where you want to feel like they're open and warm and well received and that you feel understood and heard, or that the other person does, right? Like, I wouldn't expect that maybe you might have even the clarity of mind or verbal expression to get across what you want to say either necessarily. So I would just say, like, this is one of those days where you could experience this, like, if you're trying to express something that is important to you, that you get met with like hard boundaries, or that you get a cold kind of response, or maybe you don't even get to start the conversation because it's like a hard stop. And you might, as a result, feel like your expression or like your voice feels suppressed or oppressed in some way. So that's one thing that I want to bring up for conversations on this particular day. I think it's important to say that. And then also, if it's maybe relevant for those of you who are writing, have a writing project, writing content, or writing a book, or writing up a business plan, any kind of thing like that involves writing, you may notice that today you feel a little fuzzy, can't quite get it going, might hit writer's block. So if it's a project that you can put to the side for today and work on other things, I would recommend going in that direction. Now, obviously, this is a collective astrological look at, like, lens that we're looking through. So which area of your life it's hitting is going to, like, which house it's in is going to say more about how you experience this. So for instance, for that writer's block piece that I was talking about, if let's say that you have like Mercury in Virgo, and that actually is your third house in your natal chart, well, you might be experiencing that, just as one example of a few, there are many examples, but just like to give you an idea, well, then you might be experiencing that whole writer's block very intensely and maybe feeling frustrated around that. So just notice if you're just like, oh, I can't get things written today, and feeling frustrated with it, maybe just put it to the side. So, other thing I wanted to bring in is, like, okay, so we have this moon, full moon that's happening in Aquarius. So you add in the moon with our emotions, right? This is our internal state. This is our more sensitive spots internally. And you add that with, what the more shadowy kind of side of Aquarius can be. Right? Again, we're not talking about Aquarius people, but we are talking about how, like, every sign has, what we consider positive and not positive, right? So, like, this is more the shadow aspect of this, is like, it can be cold and removed and distant and detached and independent. Like, those kind of vibes can come through. Now, you put together something so sensitive like our emotions being in that space, being in contact with that kind of energy. Even if we're just looking at the, some of the, what we could consider great attributes of Aquarius, like the independence part, right? Or the ability to not be so attached, right? So depending on what lens you look through, that can be like really positive. We can see this combination like with people creating distance with their words, right? So how might that look? That could look like verbally creating an emotional distance with others in terms of creating boundaries, or like straight up cutting people off or cutting people out of their lives, right? So the full moons are this peak of energy, right? There's this big build up with the waxing to this climactic point. And once that bursts, like a, you know, like an over easy or over medium egg, and the egg yolk just pours out, like that energy bursts out, and then we're moving into the waning energy, right? So the full moons can be a time of, you know, release. They're a time of completion, and completion also can mean release. And so sometimes that can look like releasing projects, or in a good way, like I'm launching something, but that can also mean like I'm releasing people, right? So, you know, if they're in a more constructive way, because I don't want this to be like, I can definitely see people hearing this. I can listen, you know, to this and think of myself, you know, 10 years ago, me hearing this and going through something in a relationship and going, oh no, you know, so I don't want to create fear. It's more just to be aware of that this is one of the undercurrents of the day. And so you could notice this around you and not necessarily in your life. But if I were going to talk about how to utilize this constructively, I would say, you know, if there is a non-healthy connection in your life that you have been intending to create a boundary, like harder boundaries with, or that you have really reached a point where you understand that this is not someone that is good for your life anymore, this kind of energy, along with the Mercury opposing Saturn energy together, working in conjunction, could be the right perfect storm, the perfect formula to give you, like, to create the impetus for you to actually end that, right? So that said, I want to just like put a caution here, you know, with an exclamation point. I really want to put a caution sign up here and say, be sure. Be really sure that this is, that you're not getting swept up with that kind of energy and being impulsive about that energy, right? So just want to make sure that you're being careful about that, because I get the sense, I feel like this is one of those, like it wouldn't be easy to backpedal from this, to turn this back if you get to the next day or a couple days from today on the 1st and you go, oh hell, I was caught up in my feelings in the moment, and like, I don't know, if you were the person who's like, I was just really desiring freedom and, you know, whatever it was, you know, all of the feels, this is a time where I would say, make sure that you are really checking in with yourself. So to wrap up with this day, what have we learned today about today? Today is a fuck not fight day. So I want to say I'm kidding, but honestly, if I were talking to one of my best friends and they were asking me, what's your advice for today? I would whittle it down to, today's a good fuck not fight day. Get things done, you know, utilize this amazing energy that we have with this trine that we have with these two really like powerful energies with the Mars Jupiter trine. So build momentum, get things done, really utilize that energy, have a good naked time also, let's not forget that, and save the more important or edgy kinds of conversations, the ones where they're meaningful, if they're important to you. I would say if you can set it aside for another day, I think it would be best. Now, this energy, I feel like we're going to be feeling it some into this next day, but I didn't do a chart for the second. So I'm just going to say, like, maybe even wait, it's not the next day either. So that's what we've got for August 1st. All right, so August 6th, we have the Sun in square to Jupiter. So as we know, squares are not the easiest of aspects. And we also have the moon that's going to be in Aries for most of the day. So I'll tie that in a moment, just like how I see them kind of coming together. The feeling that I have with this particular day, with this transit, is, it just has me wanting to remind us all that it's not all about us. Like, it's not all about the self. Let's remember that there are others sharing the space with us, sharing this planet with us, and this energy, can come in and be this overinflated perception of self, right? This larger than life, right? And the perception of self, we can have this kind of overinflation of that, and wanting to be front and center stage in a way. Like, nothing wrong with being center stage. Go for it, especially Leo season, right? But we could want to maybe feel like doing this in a way that actually, without our necessarily being conscious of it, that takes up all of the space in the room, like leaves no room for anyone else, for others to be there, like sucks up all the air in the space. And that kind of lack of self-awareness in that way, and just being very much about the self. So you want to watch those maybe types of self-centered types of impulses. Nothing wrong with shining, like, be shiny, with sun in Leo, shine. So be that shiny kind of, bright person, be the sun. Just don't block out the sun for everyone else. Also, other thing that I would say, let's remember we have Venus retrograde. I'm going to keep bringing this up, but we have Venus retrograde, and bringing in luxury and finances, along with Jupiter's, extravagance. And you might want to, on this particular day, just kind of watch your spending, make sure that you're not overspending on, to beyond your means. So that's just like a side note that I want to bring up in case that feels relevant for you. So the best thing that I can say, the call to action, right? Because it's not like we can't work with challenging transits like squares. We can work with these transits. We don't need to throw our hands up and go, oh, well, I guess it's just screwed in this way this particular day. There's always a call to action. It just means that bringing these energies together in a harmonious way, Jupiter and the sun, and having them, like, because when they're working together, they're amazing. I mean, some of the most amazing fortuitous kind of energy. But like, how do you bring these together in a way? And that's the call to action here is, I would say, find a way to own your shine, your glow, to be seen and self-directed. Remember, the sun is also about being self-directed, and utilize that energy to create your big picture vision, right? We look at Jupiter as being that big picture vision. So, like that working together is how we can just like feel the bigness of our energy, and we can scoop that up and stay as present as possible to remember that we're not falling into being pulled in one of these directions in a way that's, with that square energy, how it could feel easy to fall into those spaces. But to bring that together and utilize that energy so that we can work with whatever we're trying to work with in our life in that regard, with our vision or whatever it is, right? So just remember to stop and look around and consider others and consider the details, right? Because when we're looking at the big picture, we can forget to like look at the micro as well. That might be a grounding point. That might be a way to do that. We have Mars in Virgo, so try to tap into that energy of Mars in Virgo, and we just talked about that on August 1st, right? So try to tap into that kind of energy. And even better if you have like a friend or a partner who is like really good at grounding you and giving you like reality checks. So if you can, check in with them so that you don't find yourself lost in me land and the bigness of it all, and you just have like a tether point essentially to come back to, and you guys can help tether each other. All right, here we are on the 9th, and we've got another Venus squaring with Uranus. So this is the third one happening this year. So we'll only have 4 of these this year. Thank you to all the gods for that one. So this is the third of 4 happening this year. So except that this one we have Venus retrograde. And, after I say a little bit more about this, you might be interested / relieved to hear about the next one only being not too far away. It's the last one of this year. That's on September 29th. So Venus will be out of retrograde, but will still be in its like post retrograde shadow, but at least it'll be out of retrograde. So I feel like that'll be a little nicer. This transit itself can create instability and disruptions in relationships. This transit, favors electricity and newness over the stability of commitment. And it's almost like for some people, this could feel like what you value, like, is temporarily shifted. And we could be attracted to playing with fire, attracted to the risque, the edgy, the fringe, the unusual to what's our norm, right? And the emotionally unavailable, right? This is emotional restlessness personified. Like, it's the thrill, the grass is greener on the other side. And when we get to the other side of this, for anybody who really makes that trade, they might find that it's lackluster and that the grass is the same that it was from the side that they came from, right? So this is another one of those days where I'm just going to throw up a caution symbol here and say, be sure. This is another be sure moment, that you're not getting caught up in the energy of this, and that you're really solid about any decisions that you're going to make here. If the cracks are there, and with this Venus retrograde, and if you've been experiencing relationship themes coming up around, like, is this right for me? Do I stay? Do I go? Do we have the same values? Are we on the same page with things? Like, does this have energy that can stand the test of time? And you've been reevaluating these things and coming up with a lot of solid no's, and you're really investigating those, then this could be the push that breaks it, the straw that breaks the camel's back kind of thing. Or yourself or the other person could have, very sudden insights that result in a break. Just like this epiphany, no, we're really not meant for one another on this level. We're fundamentally different. So, this is one of those, and this is why I say it. I started doing these videos because even though it's, I have so much going on, honestly, it's it takes up a good amount of my time, but I want to give people the heads up that I see, the things that I would want to know, and the things that my friends tend to get from me. So I want people to be aware of this. But that's why I'm saying hey, be sure that you're not just caught up in this feeling. If you have this epiphany, do all the checks, do your due diligence and really make sure, because this is one of those things where, it would be very difficult, and I feel if not impossible, to be able to reel this one back, right? So be really sure that you've really done the investigation. I mean, I honestly, unless some situations, of course, you could be absolutely clear, you're nope, I really do know this. Okay. For some situations, I might say, if you can continue to just notice what's come up for you, do the internal work, allow it to unfold as we continue through the rest of this Venus retrograde, then maybe that might be worth doing, unless you really absolutely know, again, which is, of course, how would I know that from this position? So, this can also be the sudden introduction of a new and shiny connection, whether you're single or coupled, right? I mean, this is what, Uranus is, those very sudden insights, sudden people, unexpected things, right? So, this is where I would say I would not fully trust it, especially with Venus retrograde. So it has that very temporary energy kind of vibe, right? So now, is this 100% across the board? No. Is it highly likely though? 100%. So I would recommend not solidifying anything until we're out of this retrograde on September 3rd. So maybe even wait till the 4th, right? But so just, keep this all in mind, stay conscious, and this is just something that I think is important to say, is that, sometimes we just need a reminder from somewhere outside of ourselves, even like everyone does, I do. So even solid relationships experience restlessness. So it isn't a sign that you have to go, right? I think that in this particular time, societally, at least here in the United States, I've seen this over the last several years, like just kind of a growing issue around the lack of staying power that people tend to have in terms of working through things. I'm not saying that people should stay and it should just be like, some archaic way of being in relationships where you just stay no matter what, but more like there are cycles of being in long-term relationships over periods of like years. Like, you go through the second year, the seventh year, like there are these kind of cycles that happen inside of relationships where it's necessary to understand that there will be dips and there will be times where of course you're going to want to be with somebody else, or you're attracted to other people throughout, or whatever it is. So, just understand that even solid relationships experience restlessness. I feel like that's an important aspect of this, right? However, if you are a single person and you're very much free and you're unencumbered and uninvolved in any kind of way, this particular transit might just show up in a way that's like not necessarily so difficult, other than it might feel very non-committal. Like you might feel even more non-committal, or it just might be really fun kind of energy if you're in a social situation. It's a Wednesday, but depending on where you live and what your lifestyle's like, that doesn't necessarily matter. You could be at a social event on Wednesday. So the other thing that I want to bring up, and I think that this is a lovely transit, so let's talk about something that's lovely, is we have Mercury that is going to be in a trine, which is a friendly, lovely, it's a really nice aspect. It's a free-flowing, very nice aspect with Jupiter. And so this is one of those ones where my sapiosexuals are going to love this one. So if you are a fan of geeking out and diving into a myriad of like subjects and talking about overarching societal themes and expansive philosophical views or conspiracies or cosmology or like whatever you're into, whatever your cup of tea is, then this, like, you could really love this. And this could be just, if you're the type of person who, I'm this type of person, so if I get excited about this, but if you're the type of person who, when you're engaged in a really interesting conversation with someone, like you get that twinkle in your eye, smirk, and it can be a turn on, but it's also just really exciting, really enlivening, then, this could be really fun. And, so, I say sapiosexuals, but also just anyone who's a lover of conversation in that way, right? Because this could be with your friends, because this could be with colleagues, this could be with like a random stranger. Again, we have, Uranus is acting on this day, so we have like those sudden pop-ups of people that come through. Like you could just get into this conversation at your local coffee shop, like who knows, right? You just end up in this conversation that's like really enlivening. Now we mix into that, like, so when I drew this chart, it was for 5:04 a.m. However, so you see that the moon is at 29 Taurus, but it will very quickly, this is so early in the day, it will very quickly move in to Gemini, and we will have it in Gemini pretty much the whole day, right? Like we'll have it there. So it moves into Gemini, we're going to have it there all day, and like you mix in this energy and it's like feeling that social, quick-witted energy, right? That very like banter, like quick-witted banter. And we have this kind of really a recipe for fun with the Mars, or with the Jupiter, Jupiter trining with Mercury, right? So you can definitely see how like this energy being brought together, if you're into that sort of thing. I'm into that sort of thing, but if you're into that sort of thing, could be really fun. So if you have a social engagement to go to, that would be an ideal, awesome place to do this. But also just like hanging out with some friends, or go out to like I said, to a coffee shop, whatever. Like get into conversations, like allow that to happen. It could be really fun. And with all of the Uranus energy as well, I just want to also say, again, like with the single energy, this could be really just fun. Because Uranus is that electric, like I said, newness, very stimulating. And then with all of this other energy coming through here and here, it can feel really fun and flirtatious and temporary. I want to like underscore like temporary, okay? Like let's just underscore that. It's temporary energy. So enjoy it for what it is in the moment. Don't get attached, right? Just have fun. Why not? You're free, enjoy. If you're in a committed situation where that does not fit within the boundaries that you've created for your relationship, I still think that this could be a lot of fun. Get into these awesome, like engaging conversations with each other. You can have a lot of fun with this. This can be really expansive, like sharing of ideas, like whatever makes sense to you, with friends, with partners, whatever, right? So I just want to say, like, you can really tap into this energy. This could really be lovely. Either way, this is something where I think it could inspire everyone's big picture, right? We're looking at Jupiter, like everyone's big picture kind of vision for life. And, I think that it can inform our visions for life in a way that is inspiring and fun, if we so choose to work with the energy. And again, just because a square is happening between Uranus and Venus doesn't mean that, oh no, just give up, like it's not easy energy. Again, like you can see how there's a way that you can tap into it, and like what's the call to action here? How can you work with the energy? If you're in a committed situation where, let's say that this is feeling like it's affecting your relationship, it's like, okay, well, you're feeling that tension, that edginess. It's kind of like when someone has, sexual frustration, right? You got to have a release. So maybe just like find a way to utilize that energy within each other. Take it to the bedroom, have a good time, find a way to release the energy together in some way. I want to make sure that people, if you hear this and it feels concerning, if you can see a way to work with this that makes sense for your situation, then I want you to know that, to hear that, to know that that's possible to do. We're not doomed, right? Like we can just work with the astrology, work with the energy that we have. All right, I have been waiting to talk about this. So August 13th, this is one of those mark it on your calendar days. So we're going to have the Sun and Venus conjunct in Leo. And that means that Venus is going to be Cazimi. So this is an auspicious moment within the retrograde of Venus, right? So we can think of this like eye of the storm, but better, that kind of eye of the storm where you get the calm and the clarity, but better. So Cazimi, in case you don't know what Cazimi is, it comes from the astrologers of antiquity, and what it means is as if in the heart, as if in the heart of the sun, essentially, like if it were under the protection of the sun, in the heart of the sun, right? And we think of the sun, when we really tap into the energy of the sun, this is that radiant center of vitality, right? You think about how revitalizing and full of vitality and energy the sun is, and how life-giving actually it is, right? And so we think of Venus bathing in that golden glow of the sun's heart and being revitalized, being energized in this way. These two cosmic bodies coming together can really amplify and create something beautiful. And so, as you can imagine, it would feel pretty damn good. On top of that, it's happening in Leo, which is the sun's home, right? So this is where the sun can do what it does best. Any planet or luminary like the sun being in its home sign is kind of like the difference between you traveling and staying in a hotel and trying to be productive and work out and get your routine going, get really good sleep and do all the things, living out of a suitcase and different things like that are kind of hindrances, versus actually being in your home where everything is where it is. You can flow easily. You can do what you need to do. You can, you're most likely going to get the best amount of sleep. You just have everything at your fingertips. That is what enables you to create or do whatever you do best, right? So that's the kind of energy of when the sun is at home in its sign of Leo. So bringing in those Leo topics, the Leo vibes. We can think about, authenticity and passionate expression, boldness, courage, right? And you put that together with Venus and Venus's creativity and connectivity and wanting to be harmoniously connected even. And we've got something that feels quite special. I hope you guys can really feel into that, because when I feel into that, it feels so good. It feels like golden, glowing warmth on my heart is what it feels like, right? So this can bring in those lovely kind of like aha moments in, like of the heart, in the heart. These can be moments where you feel maybe more able to connect to yourself and others more deeply or more clearly. It's like a respite from the Venus retrograde. It's a moment in time, like almost like a suspended moment in time, this midway point through the Venus retrograde that we get to have. And so it can be this kind of pivoting point, a kind of turning point, maybe where, everything that we were gathering up in terms of like information that we were getting through the Venus pre-retrograde shadow into Venus retrograde thus far up to this point, and the themes and the things that have come up. And if you've gone through any struggle with regard to especially like relationships or your creativity or your creative projects, anything like that, the themes that you've been seeing where it's been difficult, this might be a place where you kind of go like, I see how it's coming together, or I see why it had to happen that way, or certain things like that. So this could be that moment. And also, this is, as I said, this is a burst of creative energy. This can really amplify our passions, our desires, and, be that for using it in a creative sense or romantically or both, right? So why not both? Like, why not? So I'm definitely a why not both when it comes to those things. So, for the sake of just knowing and utilizing and enjoying like the beneficial moments in life, the highlighted moments where like if you could look back and you're just like, I wish I would have known that I could have taken advantage of that. For the sake of just knowing it, I really hope that people put this on their radar and utilize it. So plan ahead, use it. I mean, like if there's one thing that we can say about the Venus retrograde throughout, except for this like little moment in time, right? It's like the things that, Venus and Leo should be like, things just feel like more like electric and connected and like all these different kinds of, vibes that would normally just feel unencumbered, and things might feel like they haven't quite felt as good, tasted as good, been as shiny, been as like connected as we want them to. They may not seem like things are sparkly, and here is a moment in time where we might get some kind of reprieve from that, and also a chance to remember that sparkle, right? What puts a sparkle in our eye and has us feel creative. So please enjoy it. Please bask in the gloriousness of this. Really utilize this. Now, obviously, again, I like to say that this is collective. These are collective themes that we're talking about. So where this occurs in your life, maybe it doesn't feel necessarily so romantic. Maybe you feel really creatively inclined to utilize this energy. Maybe it's hitting your 7th house and it is very relationship related. Like, who knows, right? So I just want to point this out because, without looking at somebody's natal chart, I can't tell you exactly which area of life you're probably going to be experiencing this more inside of, but just this energy overall, to tap into that and utilize this energy. All right, our last chart, August 15th. So we have an interesting day. So we have a couple things going on. We've got Mars in a trine to Uranus. So there's a trine happening there. And then we also have the Sun in square to Uranus. So I have a lot to say about this. So first of all, we're going to have like Mars is actually going to be trining Uranus starting the day before on the 14th by degree. It won't catch up to the exact minute, right? Until later on, right? But still they're going to be by the degree. So that energy is going to be starting the day before. So just remember that. If the astrology makes your eyes go crisscross, then just just remember that when I get to talking about Mars and Uranus, like you want to be hearing that also is applying to the 14th. I just didn't want to pull up two different charts for this since this is like the main day. Also, the sun is going to share the same degree with Uranus, but it won't be exact to the minute until they advance further later in the day. So, but both of these energies are still going to be at play. It's by degree, which is like, you know, unless you're being a stickler about to the minute, these are in play, they are happening, and that sun energy will continue into the 16th. And that's also where Mars is going to be in its exact to the minute trine on that day. And on the 16th is when we have that new moon in Leo. So consider this energy for the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th, although I'm not going to be talking about the 16th until the next video for the astrological highlights for the second half of August, so I will be talking about this again, but just to keep that in mind as I'm talking about this. So aside from all of the astrology, you know, geekery, if that's not what is your cup of tea totally to hear about, like the specifics of like the degrees and stuff, let's just get into what this is about, right? We're looking at the sun square Uranus and Mars trine Uranus. That's a hell of a lot of Uranus energy. That's a lot of energy working with Uranus and it being activated. This just feels like risk-taking, risky behavior that comes from really restless energy, right? So think about like dangerous escapes that are born out of rebellious impulsivity, right? That rebellious energy, the impulsivity of Mars, and the need for like incessant change and freedom that Uranus can really bring into the picture, right? So, you know, this is certainly not a day that I would say set yourself up for extended, like sustained concentration, perhaps. I wouldn't say that this is a day that I would utilize for that specifically. If you are needing to work on projects, I am going to talk about that in a moment, but if you are needing to work on like projects of a certain kind, work or whatever you're doing, I would do it in like breaks, maybe like do Pomodoro breaks, maybe do a different schedule than you normally do. So change it up. I think it would definitely work better with the energy of the day to change things up in that way. But yeah, this day would be the day that feels like is for extreme sports, you know. That said, but keep that, like bookmark that, because of that sun squaring Uranus, I think this could also be a day where mistakes are made, especially from like an overly inflated sense of confidence. So, you know, I don't know why I'm suddenly just like into like cautions, but I'm going to do that. Apparently this video, I'm into that. So that's what I'm doing. But this is one of those ones that I would say is, you know, caution. It's kind of like the energy reminds me of, like, what's the word? When boldness meets arrogance, like the kinds of mistakes that can really be made from that place. And so this is why I want to really highlight this. Again, this is starting on the 14th, definitely prominent on the 15th, and going to be going into the 16th and the new moon that we'll have in Leo then. So I will be talking about that, like I said, in the next video, but keep that in mind. This is where I would say you want to pay attention while you're driving, be really careful while you're driving, watch your speed, literally watch your speed. I would say be cautious about pushing your limits. You know, this may feel like a day like you want to, especially if you're into extreme sports, to really like want to push yourself physically. And to do that, I would say, I don't know, maybe it's good depending on what's happening in your natal chart and how your chart is actually set up. Maybe that would be good. I just want to say, be really careful, double, triple check everything. Maybe don't push it to your absolute limit. This is a lot of energy too. I mean, Mars is a very physical like planet, right? It's very athletic, it's very physical, and it needs to move. And with all of the like nervous system stuff, with all the electricity and the energy that can come from Uranus, then we can think about it like stimulating the nervous system. So you think about like all of this body energy that just needs to be released, and the sun as well. The sun is just like this beaming ray of like energy and vitality. So you can feel like there's a lot of energy happening in this space, right? And even if we took out the square, even if we were just looking at this trine between Mars and Uranus, if we were just looking at that, I would still say this is a day I would be cautious. So, and maybe that's just me, because I'm someone who, like, I'm typically, I have an athletic kind of physicality about me. Like, I need to move my body to feel sane. But I can be really clumsy and just like trip and hurt myself a lot. So, which is why I don't really wear heels very often. So, so this is like, you might actually feel that there's so much energy moving in your body that you might have better time, more ease with having clarity of mind by working out, like really actually pushing yourself physically, doing a HIIT workout, or doing like a really, like a heavy lifting day, or, running, or whatever it is, trailblazing, whatever you do, that could be really great. And so how could you utilize this in a constructive way, right? So I would say this could be really great for driving and motivating and putting momentum behind your projects that are to have it done in a very out of the box kind of way, very forward thinking, very innovative, very creative kind of way, because that's what we have with Uranus, and that drive and that movement, that push forward that can happen with Mars. So I think that this is, has the potential for a ton of creativity, a lot of thinking outside the box. And I would say, just go at your day by maybe choosing to have a different schedule than you normally do. Take different kinds of breaks. Use Pomodoro technique. If you're not into that, then make sure that you get outside for a walk, and do that more often to move your body throughout the day, so you can have the clarity, come back to the big whiteboard, and get back to being a mad scientist about your projects and thinking outside the box. This could be generating a ton of ideas because of that fast energy that we have mentally that can happen with Uranus, and how creative Uranus can be, along with all of that energy, that combustive, like fast, like explosive energy that can happen with Mars. So I could see this being utilized in a way that could be very like powerful and creative, and like maybe this is how you map out the next year of your business, or your next launch, or how you're going to create your website or do things differently, or like you just get a bunch of creative ideas and you just map it out on this big mind board. So those are just some examples of how I can see this really working together. So I just want to give the caution and also give some idea about like how you might be able to work with it. So if this was helpful, insightful, if you found it insightful at all, please consider giving the video a like. It does help me with the algorithm as I'm building this. It lets me know that this is helpful for you guys, so I continue to do it. And also, throw me a comment if you want to comment on any of this. Like, I'd love to engage with people. And I sometimes get DMs and I'm like, feel free to leave a comment, also as well. But either way, please also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the videos as they come out. So along with the very first, when this video is out, also will be all of the full to new moon videos and all of the monthly videos. So there's a whole bunch of stuff to ingest, and I will have that in the end screen of this video. So thanks for being here. Thanks for your time. I'll see you in the next one.